do a lot of media stuff, but
Yeah, but you're
don't
like, I don't,
the cameras.
I don't want the camera. Okay, so we're gonna start off real easy. I'm super excited for you to be here. Will you introduce yourself and your role in Cider?
Yeah, I'm Abram Goldman-Armstrong. I'm the cider maker at Alde Sider in Hardanger in Norway. And I've been involved in cider since I was a teenager. I worked at White Oak Cider out in Yamhill County in Oregon, helping plant bittersweet apple trees when I was in high school. Yeah, we just got really excited about cider when I went away to college in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Started making my own cider in my dorm room. I just got a bunch of apples from the dining hall and a cheese grater and 2 plates, and I like squished the pomace between the 2 plates and squeezed out the juice, and then pitched some champagne yeast that I got from the local homebrew shop. Okay. And like after the airlock stopped bubbling, I decided, oh, it must be ready to drink, and I just like poured it into a pitcher and went around my friends' dorm rooms and subjected them to this very very raw, rough.
I was gonna say, how did it taste?
Yeah, it was not very good. So,
but it got you in like seeing that as a beverage, it was something that you could.
Yeah, and then I got really into like homebrewing, and been in the industry, and over 30 years now. I think I've gotten a little better at making cider since then.
You're not using a cheese grater and paper plates anymore?
2 plates anymore? No, yeah, we've got a belt press to do that.
Yeah,
so
a little fancier,
a little bit,
so
better.
You kind of talked a little bit about like why cider for you, but what kept you in it? Like, those early times of like experimenting. Like, I'm assuming you didn't go to college to learn about cider.
No, I got a degree in creative writing, so not really. But I did help found a homebrew club while I was in college, and got really involved in the brewing scene. Okay. Basically when I came back to Portland after college, began got involved with the Oregon Brew Crew, homebrew club, started working for Portland Brewing as a tour guide. Started writing about cider for Willamette Week, hired me as their beer and cider columnist. And then, I started writing for Northwest Brewing News, so I was always making cider at home. I worked at White Oak. They shut down in 2004, but I was helping to pick and press, mostly just the pressing there. And then I was always, starting in 99, I was going out to there were some apples, wild apple trees out on my folks' land, and we would go to Alan's place. We would pick bittersweets, and then we'd go up in the woods out in Yamhill near where I grew up, and pick all these seedling apples. Okay. And just making a few carboys or whatever at first, but then kind of accelerated, and then by say 2010, we were making like 200 gallons a year, like very serious quantities of cider. And it was, with Bushwhacker Cider opening in 2009, and, talking to other folks around cider, just getting really, it's always been something that I've been passionate about. I wrote a lot about it, both for because cider is kind of this weird redheaded stepchild of beer and wine. And so I wrote for the Oregon Wine Press about cideries, like back in 2004, when Nick and Mimi Gunn took over the what was then called the Traditional Company and created Wandering Angus. I wrote about it for this Oregon Wine Press. So
So you did use your creative writing degree for a while.
Totally. And I still write. I write for Brewer and Distiller magazine out of the UK. Occasionally, I'm very. They don't have hard deadlines, and that's difficult. So I still owe them an article about Pumum Cup in Chile, which was in Temuco, Chile, in July. So I'm very behind on that project.
Do you do better with hard deadlines? Because if there's not a hard deadline, you're like, I'll just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's.
I feel that I'm a procrastinator to the core. I wait to pack until like right before my flight, and other people are like, "What are you doing? I haven't packed for my suitcase has been out and packed for a week." I'm like, I don't know what I want to wear, or what the weather's going to be like. The Ava in the past and the Ava now are not the same person, and so like I got to make sure that the present Ava is packing for a trip and writing and doing all the things. So you're at, is it pronounced Alde?
Yep.
You're at Alde Sider now in Norway.
Yep.
And you're a cider maker there.
Yep.
Before you had your own cidery, right? And you were doing like all of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you want to talk a little bit about that?
sure. Yeah. So basically, I was making a lot of cider at home. Reverend Nat started in his basement in 2012, and he had hired some new folks to work for him. He had three people, and he wanted to have me come over. I went over to his house and trained them on how to taste cider, and help them select a blend. They had made all these small, like little gallon jugs or growlers or whatever, test batches of different yeast strains for what was to become his Cascadia cider, the blue can. So and I just saw like what he had gotten done, and I said, hey, this is like, you got this licensed? Holy,
like you can actually crazy, like do this, right? More than just for fun.
Yeah, and so I just was really impressed that you didn't need like a big production facility, that you could just get someplace in your home licensed. And the Commons Brewery was brewing out of Mike Wright's garage at this time, and so in 2012 I had bought the domain name like ciderriot.com, and I didn't quite know what it was going to be. It was like maybe I should write a book or a fanzine about cider, or maybe I make a cidery with it, but I liked the name, so I was like, this is going to be good. And then I sat down with a good friend of mine who was an attorney and like filled out all the paperwork to make an Oregon LLC. But then I came to the point where I had to pay like $250 or something, and I was like, I don't know. So I didn't do it in that summer of 2012, but I did in April of 2013. I incorporated the company, and then I basically spent the rest of that year turning my garage into a fully licensed cidery. Ran water out there, ran more electrical, ran natural gas. Re-roofed it, put in new doors, and put a put all the food grade like paneling on the walls and everything, and put in the trench drain. So and then started a Kickstarter campaign. So that was really good. It's not a great way to raise money because they do take a pretty big chunk off the top, but it's a great way to build your brand.
And build community of people who care about the brand now, because they feel like that they have a not ownership, but they like contributed to something, so they want to see it do well.
Yeah, exactly. So the building that goodwill and building that sense of community around your brand, it was really effective. And then a few people were like, well, I'm not really a Kickstarter guy, but like if you're looking for some, investment in the brand, like in the company as a actual investor, I'd be interested. And so got some good folks on board with that, and a few, just friends with $5,000 or $10,000 investments, and then a few people with a little bit more. And so, we were able to get our license in the end of 2013 and started fermentation. Just like we have right now, there was a government shutdown, so the TTB wasn't working. So I was not able to press and go right into fermentation with the juice. So we pressed all of our bittersweet juice in the fall, and then put it in IBCs and put it in a big freezing facility. And then we had to like thaw it out in December and get it fermenting. So, and then started selling in 2014. And got really popular. We were doing almost 500 barrels a year out of my tiny little garage. So we obviously needed more space. So in 2016, started build out on the space for Cider Riot in 8th and Cooch. We grew that production. We were doing about 1,000 barrels a year there, doing, that's basically 130,000 liters, or about 260,000 pints. So quite a bit of cider production. Kept that running up through end of 2019.
Okay.
Basically, when we expanded, when we signed the lease in the end of 2015, cider was growing at 39% in the U.S. And when that it'd been this like 5 years of incredible growth,
Yeah.
and things really did start to level out from 2017 to 18. That was really tough, and then 18 to 19 was still tough. We lost like 12 breweries in the city, including really established folks like Bridgeport, Alameda, Burnside, Portland Brewing. So it was, tough times. Lompoc actually closed like a few weeks before we did. I couldn't go to their closing party because I was getting ready for our closing party. It was tough times. But then I'd gotten a job offer. We were exporting from Cider Riot to Japan, Norway, California. We were selling Oregon, Washington, BC, and then a little bit of export to the Netherlands, and actually got sold in the St. Pauli football stadium in Hamburg in Germany.
That's amazing that like this, seemingly small cidery in Portland, Oregon is just like internationally exported.
I mean, that was it was the first time when people were like, oh, do you want to do some export, and we were like, had some guys from 7-Eleven in Taiwan were sort of like, how many container loads can you send this a year? And I'm like, one, if we didn't sell cider to anyone else, so we're not going to do that. But then this guy called me up like, oh, I want to bring you into Norway, and I said, well, we're too small. It turned out I'd actually met a guy in Bristol who knew this guy's business partner in Norway and had passed on my business card. So it was just like this small world thing.
Like it being passed around. And do you think it was? I mean, I've had cider and like it was exceptional. Do you think it was partially that, but also like the branding, like the kind of like punky roots
totally. That definitely helped. I think especially with the getting into the stadium in St. Pauli was sold in the wine bar there, and Sonka, who runs the wine bar, came over when we had the friendly with St. Pauli, and we actually got him to judge the Timbers Army homebrew competition, and then we hosted the after party. We actually had the entire St. Pauli team come to Cider Riot.
Oh my goodness!
We had bands playing. It was like a really big party. It was super fun, and so like just those are kind of personal connections that I made, and it really was a good fit for their their fan base.
So it's interesting to talk to you because you've had this whole story of having your own cidery and like the trajectory of that, of like from starting in your in college in your basement and doing all of that, and then peaking and like not the downfall. It's not a failure because you learn so much from those things, but now you shifted and now you're a cider maker. How did you come to do that and be in Norway of all places? Like, was it through those connections that you made?
Yeah. So basically, I went to England to go to the Bath and West show in 2017, and then also spent a few days in Norway doing sales with my importer there, doing events where I was speaking. I was there at the. I was at I guess I'm trying to think. I guess maybe that wasn't the year. I must have gone to the Bath and West show in 2019, so that must have been a different year that I went. It was at 2017 because it was there very beginning of May in Norway. So I was basically did a talk at a cocktail bar in Oslo that had a little cider bar in their back patio. One up in Lillehammer and one down in Sandefjord. And the folks at the one down in Sandefjord had, basically really enjoyed my cider. They particularly loved, we had a tequila barrel aged cider called San Patricios, and they were like, oh, this is the best thing they'd ever tasted, kind of thing.
Just totally different than what they were making.
Right. Yeah. And they weren't making cider at that time, and they actually asked me if I could come show them how to make cider in 2018. And so in 2019, we kept the cidery open as long as possible, and unfortunately, didn't have the cash flow to keep things going. So had to shut down. But I'm like, well, what am I going to do next? This was always
Yeah.
my dream since I was in high school, and or at least in college,
Yeah.
was to start a brewery or cidery and have my own pub and everything. And I was in my 40s. I'd done what I'd wanted to do for my
Yeah.
dream, and I said,
What next?
why not go to Norway? And I basically called them up, and they said, "Oh, can you brew beer as well?" I said, "Yeah, certainly. I've worked in brewing industry a lot, and I know my way around, a brew house, and
Mm.
can do that." And they're like, "Great. We just bought this 40 hec, like a 30 barrel system,
Okay.
and we've got a head brewer lined up, but we need an assistant brewer. So if you can be in charge of the cider program,
Okay.
and then do the brewing as well.
Okay.
That would be great." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So March of 2020, I moved to Norway. Got a little bit delayed because COVID had just started, and but yeah, we actually got Tall Ship Craft Cider. I built made the brand, built out a small production facility because the big production facility wasn't finished being built out, so we had like a little temporary thing.
The plans go sideways sometimes.
And we got cider on the market in May of 2020. So I was doing that. Worked as the assistant brewer for 2 years, and then took over as head brewer. So I was in charge of all the beer and the cider at Fjordfolk, and then basically was judging at the International Brewing Awards down in Manchester in the beginning of 2024, with Olav from Alde Sider was there, and he was like, like my cider maker is having a baby, and like he was from Poland, and his wife still lived in Poland, and so he would come and he'd work a few weeks and he'd go home for a few weeks and that, and he's like, he's got to move home to be a full-time dad. So I think I'm going to have a position that, if you want to come to Hardanger, which is the heart of cider in Norway, and it's super beautiful there. It's like, it looks like British Columbia, basically.
Okay.
It's, and I first went there in 2021 for their cider fest. I driving down this like windy road down this valley, and it's just this rushing river, and it's just spruce trees everywhere, and there's waterfalls, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm at home. This is great. So
and they had an established cider program there already, like it was already up and going.
Yeah, so they were one of the best like regarded cideries in the country, probably the second largest producer in Norway. And so I said, this would be fun to kind of be, and I'd have more kind of influence on the development of, the Norwegian cider scene is quite young, and just like we'd kind of experienced in Oregon, is like just booming and growing, and like went from basically in 2014 when Olaf started Alde, there were 5 cideries in the country, and now we've got like 90 cideries.
I did not know it was that big.
Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
It was really growing, and I thought, well, I can have more kind of influence on the way that the market goes, being inside, in the middle of Hardanger, than I can like working at a brewery outside of it and trying to say, hey, let's use some bittersweet apples or do these things. So
where their main focus was really beer. And if cider was like the side project that you were doing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really that. It's just as the Norwegian cider scene regarded me as this like outsider, because I had different ideas, and it's like, but I have a lot of experience with this. Like, I've seen this grow in Oregon to massive volumes. It's like Bauman's is producing like 700,000 liters of cider these days, and it's like, it's just it's pretty amazing that it's grown so much, and that's something that I want to see happen in Norway as well, because they have goals to get goals to get this growth, but I'm like, okay, but everybody's using the same 4 apple types to make the same 4 types of or make the same type of cider, basically. Very clean, filtered, force carbonated, bright, semi-dry to sweet, and I'm like, yeah, but we need to
distinguish ourselves in a way.
And so that's
all make the same thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of my job is a lot of product development
Okay.
and small batch stuff, as well as I'm in charge of, we do about 100,000 liters of cider a year at Alde, and then we do about 50,000 liters of apple juice as well.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so I moved out to Hardanger in August of 2024. Gregor, my predecessor as cider maker, was there for. He wasn't there for the first week I was there, and then he came back for about 2 weeks, and then he was gone. And then we started getting apples in about a week after he left, and I was just like full on
You're like,
right
it's
into
me.
harvest.
It's me.
Yeah.
How would you say that like cider making in the U.S. and like the trends and the things that you maybe it wasn't because you weren't following the trends when you were here anyways. You were doing like what you want to do and it was good. But like, how would you say that it's like the two worlds are different between what you were doing here in Portland, in Portland, and then what you're doing now in Norway?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference between the cider scene in Portland and the cider scene in Norway is that in Portland, cider has always kind of been seen as part of the beer world. And like we're selling, we were selling about 85% of our production from Cider Riot on draft. I talked to Christine, came and visited us at in Norway last year, and she was saying, oh yeah, like 90 to 95% of their production is all kegs, right? And so that's a tiny percentage of the Norwegian cider market. So almost everything is in cork and cage champagne bottles because they kind of position themselves as an alternative to sparkling wine. And I thought that was kind of odd, I guess, because it's different than what I know. We had, big bottles wouldn't sell in the Northwest,
it's
right?
Cans and smaller bottle formats and draft.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is being left on the table, so to speak, is the draft market and grocery store market. At Tall Ship, we worked a lot with 4.7 ciders because we have everything over 4.7 has to be sold in a government liquor store. Kind of like we have the OLCC stores, or you guys in Washington used to have the Washington State liquor stores. So the wine monopoly stores have to sell everything over 4.7, but that means you can still make a decent 4.7 beer, certainly, and then you can make a decent 4.7 cider, especially because in Norway, our apples, we have a much shorter growing season, so we don't get that much sugar. So people are generally chaptalizing, they're adding sugar before fermentation to get the alcohol up to around 7%. But if you don't do that, you get a cider that's naturally 4.7. So you're not like you have to water it down or anything. You're just using the apples that you get. And so that was one of my projects last year, was to develop a 4.7 cider that we've released in collaboration with Sjufjell Brewery from Bergen. And we don't have it. It's a draft only now. But they increased their order. We did 10,000 liters last year, and we did 15,000 for them this year, and then saved some for ourselves. And our plan is to try and package that and get it into grocery, because I think there's a lot of potential there.
Growth in that way. It's interesting because I feel like the growth is not backwards, but it's opposite for the U.S. Like a lot of U.S. cideries are draft cans in grocery stores and bottle shops and like convenience stores. And where we're trying to take cider is more towards that like elevated view of it, of like, yes, spend $20 to $30 on this bottle of cider that you can like enjoy in this like fancier way. And then you're like taking the opposite there of like, you're only doing it this way, but look at this huge market that's untapped where you could sell it in these other places you haven't even gone to. So it's almost like we have reverse problems that we like need to master, and like their view of cider and our view of cider, like there's a Venn diagram and it only crosses in a small area, and like we're trying to merge them. So.
And I think that's the interesting thing for me coming into that market. I'm like, why is this not on draft? Why is this not accessible? But it was actually a fairly intentional decision, because they went from having a really big like home cider making tradition where they were just selling still cider in these big plastic jugs like you would get in the English West Country. But they were, and they were chaptalizing up to get it like 14% alcohol, and it was pretty rough stuff, I
Basically
guess.
like hooch.
Yeah, and so they wanted to set themselves apart from
Yeah.
that when they started up, and so they went with this
Mm.
very elegant wine,
Yes.
wine style.
And I will say that everything that I've tried from Alde is like, it's beautiful. I mean, there was people last night at the cider share who were like, they're like, I gotta go get the ice cider. I gotta go get the ice cider because it's just so, like, the flavors in there are so refined and smooth, and it's beautiful. Thinking of, being a cider maker, that portion of it, but also owning a cidery, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to open a cidery or who wants to become like really ingrained in the cider culture as like far as being like a cider maker? What would be your advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously now we have a lot more resources with the Cider Institute, with, the Palmier program from the American Cider Association to get your kind of basic knowledge. I kind of just learned from people who knew a lot about it and doing it myself. And, there weren't as many opportunities. I did take a class with Peter Mitchell, which is, his program has become the Cider Institute program now. But I think that's definitely something. I think if you want to open a cidery now, I would definitely encourage you to do lots of research on what because it isn't the same as opening in 2013 because that was like this wild
Yes. It was the Wild West.
Yeah,
it was just like
really
bootstrappy and do it. And I feel like now you have to have a lot more capital to.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, that a lot of us didn't have the capital, and that's why you see that a lot of the brands like Cider Riot and Reverend Nats that were really well regarded. We had good product, good people, good pub, all of these things around the brand, but the financial part just didn't work.
Yeah.
And that's the big challenge. And I'd say make sure if you want to start, if I was going to do it again, I probably wouldn't try to have expanded out of the garage, and I would just do things that I wanted to make, and I, could sell a small amount. I mean, look at Ryan Burke, who worked for Angry Orchards forever with his Occam cider. He's just doing the things he wants to make.
Yeah.
And he luckily has a name for himself and can market those. Yeah. So he doesn't have to appeal to everybody with this concentrate based cider that's in every 7-Eleven in America. That he
can specialize in what he is passionate about, and that really comes through, and people trust it.
And I think that's the advice that I would have, because back when I was starting, that was still, craft beer was still super popular. Craft beer was booming. Ninkasi was buying a new brew house like every year. They had 15 barrel brew house, and then the next time it went down a year later, they had a 30 barrel brew house, and it was just like the growth rate was that growth model. That's what the model was, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Just keep getting bigger is what they told everyone.
And I think now you see a lot of breweries trying to scale back, and it's hard to do it if you get too big, because then it's hard to sustain like all these investments you've made, these buildings you've built, etc. So right sizing is what that's the lingo, the jargon for it now. But like, make sure if you're going to start something, you want to be right sizing your company from the start, and don't expand unless you find that you're so far behind on your production that you can't meet the demand. I think that's, unfortunately, it's business stuff, and this is stuff that I didn't know going into it. I learned the hard way. And I think that would be, I guess, my advice is to make sure, like, definitely follow your passion, but don't think, oh, I'm gonna, if I make it, they'll come. I think that was actually something that was achievable, and we did achieve to some extent that, but then it kind of came back to bite us in the ass, because we had overexpanded in, when you're stuck paying $10,000 in rent every month, and you have, basically out of nowhere, this hard seltzer thing is like just chomping through all the shelf space that had been ciders, and even chomping the other way into the beer section. That was a real thing. And now hard seltzer is dwindling away to nothing. But like, who knows what the next thing like that might emerge is. So just be prepared for things to change very rapidly.
Yes, I appreciate that advice, because you want to make sure that what you're doing is sustainable for you. Because as you get bigger too, you have to hire more people. Your costs go up exponentially too. Like, yes, you can make more cider now, but you also have to pay more people. You have to pay bigger leases and all of those things. And if you're not prepared for when there's a dip, then even if you're the most well-regarded cidery, like, shit can hit the fan. It can be bad. What's your vision or hope for the industry? Like, where do you see cider going, and what do you want to see in cider next?
I just because I worked for Alan Foster at White Oak when I was young. I think for me, my passion are bittersweet apples. I think there's a lot of great traditional cider being made and not maybe appreciated as much as it could be. Still in the UK.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Basque Country, Asturias, Normandy, and Brittany. You have these traditional cider regions. But with this kind of modern cider, it's global. Everybody is excited about cider. But I really want that more complex cider, whether it's traditional or not, but just people to be using these cider-specific apples. It makes such a difference to the depth and character. And like this year in the new vintage of Alde, I've got some Ellis Bitter blended in just to give, because what you can do if you're working with the best of everything is so much better than if you're just saying, I'm only going to make this traditional cider with these traditional varieties, or I'm only going to use, because our tradition in Hardanger is just to use eating apples. Only going to do that. I think that's where cider making skill comes in, is to like, what is the best blend? But I think that's something is getting more people growing bittersweets. We've seen it definitely in Cascadia. In certain regions, like the Northeast here, I think is really strong for bittersweets as well. We're starting to grow them a bit more in Norway. But for me, that's part of what I want, is to have a more sophisticated cider, because you can't really make that sophisticated cider without some tannic component, right? Yeah. And so
it gives it that structure that you need.
And that's something like, we've got the great aroma in Hardanger. We've got all this acid. But if you think about cider as being like a star, so it's got 5 legs to it. So the one leg is tannin, the one leg is acid, the one leg is sweetness, one leg is like fruitiness, and one leg is alcohol. So we can do all those other things, but we just don't have tannin. So it's never going to be a properly balanced product. And that's something that I think is important for the industry to grow into something that people will respect as much as wine. Is wine has tannins, and that is something. I went to a talk by a sommelier in Norway like 3 or 4 years ago that said, she was like, oh, but you can't pair cider with red meat. And I'm like, well, hang on now, because
yes, you can.
I like a big tannic West Country cider and a steak are a perfect match. And I think that's something that, people are working on that. We're seeing that. Oregon obviously is sweeping the tannic category at like every international awards, like World Beer Cup last year, also at the International Brewing Awards in 2024. All the tannic category is going to these Oregon cider makers, because they're growing amazing cider fruit in Oregon these days. And so I think that's something, we've got the Baltic countries here as the guest countries this year, and that's something in Latvia. They're growing Yarlington Mill from Latvia is fantastic. We've got a guy from Lithuania, and he's just launched his cider brand, and it's all about bittersweet and kieved ciders. But he's got some acidic varieties he can blend in as well. So I think there's a lot of potential there. But I think, getting to be and also just getting people to understand cider is not just a sweet fizzy drink. Like that's the toughest thing that we as cider makers have to do. We face that in Norway as well, because we have a lot of these sweet like Swedish ciders with very little juice in them, that Rekorderlig and Kopparberg, like just flavored things that are Summersby,
cane sugar is an ingredient in it, and you're like
and it's just those things make people not want to drink our products, and just that if we could figure out how to, I guess that's the biggest goal. I mean, it's not a vision as
Yeah,
much as a
it's a goal and a
goal for
hope
the
of like that, like more ciders are being made that way so that we can educate people.
yeah.
I just have a few more questions. I know we got to get going, but you started talking about bittersweet apples. Do you have a favorite apple to make cider with?
Yeah, so I guess I usually answer this question in that Kingston Black is everybody's favorite cider apple.
Okay.
But setting that aside, I do love to work with Kingston Black, but Yarlington Mill would probably be
Yeah,
my favorite apple. I think that just the perfuminess, the bubble gumminess, the nice, rich, deep tannins, just it's so beautiful, like the pink color of its skin. It's a little bit stripy, like a tabby cat. It's just such a beautiful apple. So, yeah, I'd say Yarlington Mill, also Kingston Black,
but you're like
yeah.
that's the basic answer that everyone gives.
Yeah.
So I gotta. What's next for you in cider? Like you're at Alde. You're gonna stay there for a while and keep building the cider out there.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I just just in getting in really nice bittersweet fruit in Norway that is really promising, and just we're obviously Alde is last year we won the best modern cider at Glint Cap. We're making these ice ciders that people really like, but actually when we put them in competition, they often get beat up because we have so much acid in our apples in Norway. Just trying to develop some new things. I'm working on non-alcoholic cider. Obviously, that's a big category of interest. So playing around with some different things with that. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going forward there. I don't have a big long-term plan of what I'm going to do with my life.
Do you have to though?
Yeah.
Cider is the long-term plan in whatever form it comes in.
Yeah, and so I think that's I'm eligible to apply for citizenship in Norway coming up in March. So I think I'm going to do that, and then
Will you adopt me so I can go? I'm just kidding. My final two questions, and they're kind of like opposites of each other. What do you dislike about working in cider? What's the thing about your job or about cider that you just wish you could like magic wand it away or like push it off on someone else?
Oh man.
And it could be something that you used to have to do that you don't have to do anymore. But like just the one part of working in cider that you're like, boo, no thank you.
Packaging. I don't usually do it, but I hate packaging.
Like putting in bottles or cans.
Yeah, standing on the bottling line, it's noisy, it's clanking, the machine's always breaking down. It's like that's the worst part. Thankfully, in my current role, I don't usually work on the packaging line. But yeah, that's the worst part of production in either beer or cider. It's just
long days of just like.
Oh, I don't mind the long days. I do that
of just standing and like watching it and fixing things, and
I don't mind cleaning tanks. I don't mind doing all the other stuff, but it's the packaging I really hate.
I mean, that's a good answer. What do you love about working in cider? What gets you out of bed in the morning and keeps you in this beverage for as many years as you've been in it?
There's a lot actually. The dynamicness of it, the unexpected nature of fermentation that you're hoping is going to be amazing, but you don't know.
It's like a wild animal.
And it's just like there's so much. It's not it's not you're going and like doing like factory work. You're going and you're doing something and you're trying to influence our little friends, the yeast cells, right?
It's an agricultural product. It's a live product.
And it's you're working with the apples and then also the people. I mean, just coming to this and seeing all these people that I love from around the world, it's really, really a wonderful community that has coalesced around cider as our common thing that we all love. So
cider people are the best people. I will say it every day, but they are the best people. There's something wonderful about people who have fallen in love with the beverage that's just so dynamic and beautiful. Where can people find you or your cidery, like as far as or all the like the social media stuff?
So it's Alde Sider. Cider is spelled just like cider in English, but with an S instead of a C. So aldesider.no, and Alde is ALDE. And then Cider, SIDER. .no, and then on Instagram as well. The same. I'm Cider Abram, Abram on Instagram.
Okay.
And
are you guys importing into the United States?
We are working on that.
Okay, so not yet. So right now, people got to come to
so
either CiderCon while you're pouring, or go over to Norway.
pretty much,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
We've got it in Denmark now as well, so you can find it in Copenhagen. We're working on trying to get into France as well. But right now, yeah, pretty much Norway. It will be imported through Bauman Cider in Portland and available through Preston Press
Eventually.
to order from mail order. But right now, the TTB is again shut down. We need these label approvals in order to be able to get
but in the near future.
We hope to say this year, so that's
crossing our fingers. Yeah. Keep an eye out for that. Well, thank you so much, Abram, for sitting down with me and taking time out of your CiderCon to chat apples and cider, because we need more of it.
Well. Of course, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, I think it was good. We'll see.